Good evening, Nigeria. My name is Taye Charles Okon, and this is Jump Out Nigeria. We are so sorry to come behind schedule. It's just because of some things that were all above or beyond our immediate control. You know, we always come promptly and we don't come empty-handed. Today, I am again on this show to talk about Nigeria and a very important question, a topic that deals with the root of our existence at Nigeria, the present and the future of this country, especially when it comes to governance and how we are being led as a nation. Recently, former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, made a statement saying democracy was forced on us. And this statement caught my attention and so many other concerned Nigerians, and we are asking, are we really in this kind of situation as painted by the former president of Nigeria? This is the topic for tonight, and I have with me, as usual, two guests that will be doing justice to this topic, and you are also permitted to let your views be heard, because this program is also for you. It is for all of us to deal with, to talk about, and make our voices to be heard. So begin to drop your comments, your opinion, your questions, if you have any, as I invite my guests for tonight onto the show. I have two guests, like I said, and one of my guests today is a journalist, a lawyer, and a public affairs analyst. I also have another guest who is also a public affairs analyst. Two of them will be here with me tonight, and let me bring onto the stage, onto the studio, into the house, Mr. Muritala Agbola, who is a public affairs analyst.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good evening.
Okay, so while we are waiting for our guests, Adeniton, to join us tonight, I would like to ask you this question. Do you think, for any reason, that what the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, said about democracy being forced on us as a nation is anyway true? As a public affairs analyst, as an elder who was alive and maybe part and parcel of 1999 shift from military rule to democracy, and of course, as a public affairs analyst, what do you think?
I don't agree with Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, the former head of state, the former military president, a statesman, an international statesman. Baba, as we normally call him here, is entitled to his own opinion. And one of the dividends of democracy is the fact that everybody is entitled to his own opinion. And if you ask me, Nigeria is blessed to have had so many systems of government. We have, in 1960 and 1966, we practiced the cabinet system, parliamentary system, otherwise known as the Westminster system, that was inherited from the British colonial powers. Then between 1979 and 1983, it was presidential system that was initiated by Murtala Mohammed, that is Obasanjo's senior head of state, while he was the deputy. So the transition, the first of its kind in Nigeria, was, and Muritala initiated, Obasanjo implemented transition program. Now, so which means that Nigeria is fortunate to have practiced both parliamentary and presidential systems of government. Now, in 1966, the first coup took place, which means that we practiced the cabinet system for only 6 years. Then in the Second Republic, we practiced the presidential system for 4 years. Now, after that, the Third Republic was aborted because we practice diarchy. And diarchy simply means that we had military president Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, while all the other governments, the Senate, the House of Rep, the governors, and others were elected. So that is diarchy, a combination of the military and the civilians. Then since 1999, continuously for over 24 years now, we have practiced uninterrupted civilian or democratic regime. My sister, the problem with Nigeria is not the system. Democracy has very fine attributes. And some of these some of these attributes are periodic election, freedom of choice, many political parties, fundamental human rights, written constitution, and so on and so forth. So if there's any problem, the problem is in us, the actors. Now, the parliamentary system, which was aborted over 6 years, had been practiced in Britain for time immemorial. The presidential system in America, which we copied, has also been practiced since the 18th century. So what's the problem? The problem is in us. Now, elections we conduct are not clear and not clean. They are not credible. But we continue to complain. We continue to blame the system. Now, if we practice another style, but let us go back. Before the white man came, we had the traditional system. And the traditional system, monarchies were the heads. That is by accident of birth. Some people, because they were born into a certain family, they had the right. Now, don't forget that this democracy we are talking about even originated in Greece, in Europe. Greece, in the Greek city-states, that is where democracy started. And what was democracy then? All the people converged in a particular place to take a decision that affected the whole society. But as society grew up, there were many people that could not contain all the people at a time, a place that could contain all the people at a time. Some people, the nature of some people's job did not allow them to go for such meetings. So we now, instead of having the classical or the direct democracy, we now have what is known as representative or indirect democracy, also known as liberal democracy. So it gives people the opportunity to elect their leaders. Yes, we have had a problem with Nigeria, not because I don't believe it is the system, but it's the actors. The parliamentary system, we did it for 6 years. And the presidential system, we did it for 4 years, after which military coup took place. Now, it's a credit to the president now, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, that he was able to, when he became the president, he was able to retire the young and ambitious military officers. He retired them, so no coup has taken place. So if you ask me, yes, we have problem with our democracy. For example, let us look at it, the practicality of it. In America, America has 50 states with close to 400 million people. They have 2 senators per state, which means they have 100 senators. In Nigeria, we are just about 200 million people. We have 36 states, and we have 109 senators. That's one of the practical aspects. The other practical aspect is the fact that in America, where we copy the system from, my sister, do you know that the president picked bills? According to Michelle Obama, the former first lady, he said the only thing they did not pay for was the staff and the rent. Those were free. But that if they take any meals, at the end of the month, they will give them the bill and they will pay it. In Nigeria, it's not so. In Nigeria, budgetary provisions is made for the office of the first lady.
Let me cut you, Mr. Muritala. Let me welcome now our guest, the studio, because we are not You're welcome, Mr. Adeniton Akinola. Like I said earlier, before he joined, he is a lawyer, a journalist, and also a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to the show.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like we were discussing before you joined, of course, the topic of tonight is to ask if
Thank you very
really.
much, and I'm very sorry for this challenge. Is the unpredictability of the network around there, and I've tried to locate a better place. I don't know it's going to turn out to be this at the wee hour of the program. I'm sorry, and it's good to be.
Exactly one of the things we are discussing on the show today. So it's fine. It's fine. We really understand. So, like I was trying to ask you, the former president of Nigeria said that democracy was forced on not only Nigeria,
Hello?
the whole of Africa. So I want to ask you, as a Nigerian, as a person
Hello?
who has been in this country for
Okay.
decades, who have seen
Can you
governments
hear me?
come. Yes, I can hear you. Do you think that Obasanjo is right, though he has a right to his own opinion, but do you think truly that democracy was forced not only on Nigeria, but the whole of Africa?
Uh,
Oh, I think Mr. Adenito is having some network issues, like he said the other time, and that is one of the reasons, maybe one of the things that is making us to come here tonight to talk about Nigeria. Do you think that really democracy was forced on Africa and by extension Nigeria, because Nigeria is also part of Africa? And this is Jump Out. If you are just joining, thank you so much for being with us this evening. We always come in to talk about Nigeria, the way forward, how to make things better, and what we think, because we need to allow our opinions to be known. Our voices need to be heard. That is why this program has been designed for us. Mr. Mritala, thank you for being there. But let me quickly take us through something that I would like us to know. In 1999, like we all know, Obasanjo became the first president who enjoyed this democracy. He was there in 1999, on May 29, he was sworn in as the first president to enjoy this brand new democracy. And he had the privilege of being a two-term president. And according to what we saw at that time, he tried to do a third time in office, which did not work. And after Obasanjo, we had former President Musa Yar'Adua, who came, but unfortunately, he couldn't spend the whole of his tenure as president before, departing the earth. And after Yar'Adua, we had Jonathan, who became our president. He also was able to finish the tenure of Yar'Adua and also had another 4 years to his name, after which we have Buhari, who spent 8 years, and now we have another president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is our president. Cumulatively, we have had these men be our president. We've had 4, and now we have the 5th president under our nascent democracy. So now that we have Mr. Adenito back, can you hear me, Mr. Adenito?
I'm very
Great.
much around.
So, like I was asking you, great.
Yes.
So we had Obasanjo, we had Yar'Adua, we had Jonathan, we had Buhari, and now we have President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you think, as asserted by Obasanjo, that truly democracy was forced on Nigeria?
The answer to that question is yes and no. It is yes and no. And
why so?
If you allow me, allow me to go a little bit historical, then we understand the yes and the no. The number one, no, let me start from the no. The no is that before the advent of Western in relationship with Africa, or before the advent of colonialism, slave trade colonialism, because it was colonialism itself that brought democracy to Africa. We had asked in Africa. For example, let me look at 2 major examples in that regard: the Kikuyu, Kingdom of Kenya, and the Oyo Alaafin, the Oyo Empire You understand the pre-colonial administration in that region, particularly in the Oyo, which is our environment here. Where the Alaafin could not take decision alone, he has to consult with the Oyo Mesi and so on. So there was decentralization of power, and some of the features of democracy, of course, were obtainable in those two kingdoms that I mentioned in Africa. But now, that is the know that before the advent of colonialism, we have had democracy. But what we had was not Western or liberal democracy. What was imported and imposed on us is Western and liberal democracy. And that's what exactly Chief Olusegun Obasanjo is talking about. And that kind of democracy was imposed on us as a consequence of colonialism. Because colonialism itself was not to do us any good. It was purposely for exploitation. Just like any other thing that were brought by the West, including their religions, were to exploit the black man, not to save his soul or take him to heaven. And now, when colonialism came with that model of democracy, colonialism did not come to teach an African man freedom. It only came to impose what the liberal democracy was in Europe and Africa, so that it would be easy to do the exploitation job, which was the basic agenda of colonialism. So when they brought colonialism, when they brought that liberal democracy here as a result of colonialism, it was imposed on us, and of course we have to accept it, because at that time we had no choice. We had no choice, of course. It's also relative. Number one, when they came here, to tell you that that particular system was imposed on us, they met a system that was functional. In most of the kingdom they visited, they met systems that were functional. And what they did was to force that system. They repaired those systems and they compared those systems to obey theirs. You see, some of the kings in Nigeria, let's take Nigeria as our country, for example, King Dana of Ishekiri, Jaja of Okobo, Overamin Nogbaisi of Benin, they were all changed out of the kingdom because they resisted colonialism. So they brought destiny now and imposed the Western system of democracy on us, which we call the liberal democracy. And now, why did it become, acceptable to our people? At that time, there were people who had felt discountenanced, uncomfortable with the monarchical system and the superpower of the monarch, in quote. So at the time colonialism came here, Africa had produced few elites who had gone to UK to study. And these people had seen liberal democracy and they felt they also wanted to be part of government in their hometown. So it was easy for the British people or for the colonial to ride on the back of those people who were already ambitious to be part of governance in their own country because of their education. And to tell you that it was not even easy to have that done. When they came, they saw our system, and what they did, in fact, what made colonialism succeeded here was indirect rule system. Indirect rule system simply implied that there was a functional system that we met on ground. We just brought our and modified it, and we walked through these people, or we exploited these people through their own. So at the time they were living, they had to, that liberal democracy became functional because our elite accepted it, and it became so also appealing to a lot of people. So what am I talking about? The difference between the African democracy pre-colonial and the Western liberal democracy is that the African democracy did not have some of the features of the Western democracy. Some of the features of the Western democracy include periodical elections, rule of law, all of those things. Constitutional democracy, constitutional governance, and so on. Those were not part of the features in our own democracy. These were the only features in their own democracy that were brought here and imposed on us. And that's exactly as we speak today. Despite the fact that Baba enjoying part of this liberal democracy as the first president upon return to civil rule in 1999, but inside the truth, we have been unable to, to phantom what exactly, who exactly we are, what exactly we want. And that's exactly that all of the features of the liberal democracy that we inherited, we have not been able to run it in such a manner that the average person will say, oh, this is truly democratic. Today, election has always been a problem in Nigeria as we speak. Even the rule of law we talk about, if you are not in the system, if you are not the big man, you are the one that the law applies to. The ordinary man, the law does not, with respect to, the ordinary man is the one that the law applies to. The law protect the rich man, the big man. The police does not protect the poor man. His protection of the poor man is an accident. It principally protect the rich man or the big man or the government. And those people, even democracy cannot even allow, as liberal democracy cannot allow the ordinary man to have access to government. Only those who have the will, who have the means, can have access to government. So the ordinary man will only be an appendage periodically by voting. And most times does his vote count? If we really investigate election in Nigeria since 1999, we really encode does the election as election counted, does it count and will it count? So these are issues that we said, even though the democracy had been there, but the one they brought that were imposed on us is the liberal Western democracy, which have emphasized or identified its features that we have continued to battle with, which is the bane of our development as we speak.
Okay, I will ask this question. I want Mr. Agbola to answer this question, then I will come back to you, Mr. Adeniton. In 1999, when Obasanjo was being sworn in, I want to quote part of his address that day. That was a big day. That 1999 actually happens to be my birthday, and it's a very important day for me, so I pay attention. And I want to quote what Obasanjo said on that day. I believe this is what God Almighty has ordained for me and for my beloved country, Nigeria, and its people. I accept this destiny. I will take the first statement saying that day, launching democracy brand new for Nigeria was what God has ordained for him to be the first president to enjoy a terrible democracy, and of course for Nigeria. Then now it is 24 years after, we are talking about it being forced on us. Could there be any form of contradictory statements? I would like you to clarify if you are with me on this point. Mr. Agbola, please go ahead and answer, please.
Mr. Agbola, go ahead and answer, please. Are you with me? Hello?
I'm with you. Please, Mr. Agbola, you can answer.
Is it meant for
Please, Mr. Agbola, you can answer.
Okay. Well, I didn't even hear what the other man said at any time, but I don't believe that anything was forced on us. Now, there are different forms of government. I hope you are with me.
Absolutely, I'm with you.
Absolutely, I'm with you. Yes. You see, nothing was forced on us. Democracy has some attributes, and it makes it better. Whether we are talking about other forms of government like socialism, monarchy, whatever it is. Now, the attributes of democracy place it higher. It may not be perfect because in human situation, nobody is expecting any perfection. But the fact that it gives people the right to periodically elect their leaders, the fact that people have freedom of choice, the fact that there's judiciary makes it better relative to others. Now, before the white man came with colonialism, it was hereditary. And by hereditary, we talk about monarchs. There are two different types of monarch. We have the constitutional one, like in Britain. We have the absolute one, like in Arabian countries. Now, whichever way it is, whether it is constitutional or absolute, it is by mistake of birth, which gives some people right over others. But in democracy, we are talking about the fact that people, the electorate, the voters, have the right to decide who their leaders should be. So if you are talking about democracy being forced on us, then what other alternative are we going for? Is it like, for example, here in the Southwest, in Yoruba land, the Oba, the typical of maybe the Alafin, they were known as the Kabiyosi. That means, who are we to question you? Alafin was regarded as the Ikuba Bayeyala Segbakeji Orisa, the second calabash to God. Whatever he did was final. Even though in Yoruba land, there were two checks that were made to check the Alafin or the Oba. One, the Ariona Kakamfo, that is the word generalismo, live outside the capital. And your Yomesi, 7 of them, they elect the Oba. Now, if the Oba goes against the wishes of the people, then he was forced to commit suicide. That was the practice. Now, but democracy came. Democracy, you see, it is the practitioners, it is the actors. Nothing is wrong with democracy. Democracy, like I said, has been practiced in Britain for so many years. In USA, it has also been practiced since 18th century. So what's our complaint? We complain about every system. It is not the system, but it's not. Look, Jimmy Carter was Obasanjo's colleague. At the time he was ruling USA, Obasanjo was ruling Nigeria. And like Obama said, they pay you salary. If you are elected for a period, you are paid salary, and you don't do more than that. In Nigeria today, I'm telling you, there is provision for the office of the First Lady. People are wallowing in poverty. Nigerians are groaning, yet the political class are different from us. There is a serious disconnect between the rulers and the electorate. So it is the actors that has not made their political system to function. So if you now complain about democracy, I doubt whether we are going to socialism or other system. So that's why I believe strongly too that it is not the system, my sister, it is the actors. And as long as we don't look in Africa, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, he was an African leader. Even our own Obasanjo, Awolowo. Today we look back with nostalgic feelings about what these people did. All the industrial estates set up in Lagos, is it Apapa? Is it Ilupeju? Is it Ikeja? Has been turned to worship centers. The companies are divesting from Nigeria. Nigerians graduate today, they are Japa, JP, they are going to Europe and other countries. Is it the system? It is not the system. You see, the poor workman will always complain about the tools. I'm not saying it's perfect, because no human system is perfect. But we can do better. Leaders should lead by example. Leaders should show the way. Today, voting or this thing, democracy has become investment in Nigeria. So what do you say about that? Now the election management body, INEC, is being complained. Yes, INEC have their own dereliction of duty. They are complicit in what is happening. But we don't talk about desperados, politicians who are desperados, who invest money and want to reap very high. The return on investment in politics is higher than any business you can think of. In other countries, it is the businessmen that make money and then try to influence politics. In Nigeria, people get into politics, get money, and then become big men all over the place. Nigeria is in abject poverty. Something has to be done. So I don't believe that, except there is any other system that can afford all the same opportunities. But for now, I have looked at most of the system. Is it socialism you are talking about? Is it communism? Is it aristocracy? Is it oligarchy and all these things? So for me, it is not the system. System have been practiced in other countries and they are thriving. So what is it? Why is it that it's not working in Nigeria or in Africa? Maybe the environment, maybe our leader. But I think majorly it's because our leaders have decided to make it so.
Okay, we are still on Jump Out Nigeria, and I still have with me two guests, Mr. Muritala Agbola, who is a public affairs analyst, and also Mr. Adeniton Akinola is a journalist, a lawyer, and also a public affairs analyst. And I can see that Mr. Adeniton is not agreeing with Mr. Agbola at all. However, if you're just joining, thank you for joining. Please let us know what you think. Send in your questions, send in your reactions, your comments. You can like and also share this program so that every Nigerian out there can have, an idea of what we are discussing here and also have their voices heard. Mr. Denito, I can see that you were gesticulating while Mr. Agbola was talking. You seem not to agree with a lot of things he was saying. Let's have your own opinion. I think I cannot hear you, Mr. Adenito. We cannot hear you. if you can remove the earpiece, maybe it can work directly. Hello, can you hear me? Wow, I seem not to be able to hear you. I can't hear you. Maybe you can increase the volume on your phone or something. Hello? Okay, Mr. Adeniton, we cannot hear you. I would like to please try check your connection. If you can exit the room and come back, let's see if we can be able to hear you. But we can see you clearly, and I think the network is good on your side, but we cannot hear you. All right, I think I would like to continue with Mr. Agbola, because what we're talking about right now seems to be very, very important. You have made some points saying that it is not democracy that really is the issue. It is the people. The people in democracy are leaders. The people who are in it. You said Nigeria is in abject poverty, but politicians seem to be the richest men you could find in almost any part of the world. Basically, also if you start from Africa. And somebody said a reaction saying that if anybody was to condemn democracy, it should not be former President Obasanjo, but am of the opinion that he has a right to say what he feels or what he thinks, because anybody will say he has more experience. Okay, I think we have Mr. Adeniton back in the studio. Let's see if we can hear him so that we can go ahead and ask him more questions. But until then, Mr. Bola, do you think that we should not crucify Obasanjo?
I am back. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Adenito.
Okay. Yes. Quickly, like I said that let us don't get too much emotional about this thing. When Nigeria is not working, people don't have jobs and so on and so forth. We understand it's the problem of leadership, people that run the system. There is no system that is perfect, and every system has an issue. But the issue we are discussing is the fulcrum of our discussion is whether democracy was imposed or not. And let us try to understand the topic so well so that we don't also confuse ourselves. Like I said, that what was imposed is liberal democracy. That we have had democracy before them. Even the monarchy you refer to, it was also democratic monarchy as it is in UK. Yeah, people, the number were not absolute. Even though they said they were commit suicide.
Okay. We seem to be having network issues there from Mr. Adeniton. Hello? Mr. Adeniton, can you hear me? Mr. Adeniton, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have network issue from Mr. Adeniton. It's so unfortunate. It would be so beautiful if we could hear him. He really has some points to give there as his reaction to balance at least what we have on the show tonight. Let me go back to Mr. Agbola. As it is right now, I was about asking you, do you think we do not need to crucify Obasanjo for making his mind known about what he thinks on our democracy?
No, not at all. My sister, you see, one of the dividends of democracy is the ability to freely express one's opinion unhindered within the ambits of the law. So Obasanjo is entitled to his own opinion, just like I'm also expressing mine. So, I mean, there's nothing bad about it. But even the theory he was trying to propound, if go and check the statement he made, he was only bringing it up so that people can now formulate or develop it. Because he said we have to be involved. Involved in what way? What already we are involved, but you see, democracy is not working because the elite. In fact, this system in Nigeria should be better christened elitocracy, and government of the elite, by the elite, and for the elite, and not democracy. Democracy has worked in other places. The leaders or the rulers are the servants. In Nigeria, the situation is not the same. It shouldn't be so. There's a greater disconnect between the rulers and the ruled. And that's why people are gnashing their teeth. People are wallowing in abject poverty. There's deficit of trust on the part of the leaders. So today, when the leaders say something, people take with a pinch of salt. It shouldn't be so. You see, democracy allows you periodic election. So if a government does not perform, when it comes back for re-election, it is booted out. Other things being equal. Now, we have issues with election too. Now, election is the fulcrum around which democracy revolves. So it means there must be periodic election, there must be adequate security to ensure that free, fair, and credible elections are conducted. Today, most of our elections end up in court. Is it supposed to be so? And again, you see, people have also moved against that. But we can't resort to anarchy if you are dissatisfied with election results. So we still have the cause to go to. And we expect them to live above board like Caesar's wife. So I strongly believe that we can make this better. But if there's any other system of government or form of government which Baba Obasanjo wants to propound, all well and good. But don't forget that he even propounded the theory of the third factor for politics, which didn't materialize. But he's free. Nobody can crucify him. He has the right. He's an international statesman, a former head of state, and a former president. And like you said in your intro, he wanted a third time, but unfortunately, it did not materialize. That is also the beauty and the dividend of democracy. Otherwise, if you were to be operating military rule, you will have succeeded, and nobody will say anything. But give it to him. One of the good things I think he has achieved in Nigeria is the fact that he retired the young and ambitious military officers in 1999. And that's why we have been able to have stable democracy till now. But other things, he conducted one of the worst elections in Nigeria, such that even the beneficiary of that election came out to say, that's Umar Musa Yar'Adua, came to say that the election that brought him into office was highly flawed. And that's why the Uwais commission or panel was set up to look at elections in Nigeria. Some of the recommendations have been accepted, others have not. But all this, what we are saying, what the Americans did or they are doing, look, recently in Britain, a former prime minister became a foreign affairs minister. Can that happen in Nigeria? Some people live around the corridors of power. Some people have been in power since 1999, 24 years ago. Is it also the system? No. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Let me ask this question, and I'll go straight to Mr. Adenito. Still about democracy, you've asserted that it was first on us and it was not first on us, and that is kind of a two-edged sword there. But recently we had an elder statesman, Professor Ango Abdullahi, still talking about our democracy. He's saying that the judges in Nigeria, talking about the judiciary arm of government right now, are posing threats to our democracy because of the way they are upholding the rule of law. Oh, I think Mr. Adenito is out, and I would have loved him to answer this question because he is a lawyer. However, Mr. Bola, you are an analyst and you understand what goes on in Nigeria. You rightly said that most of our elections end up in the courts, and the judges have no choice because the cases are taken to them. They have to rule after hearing from the both sides for and against, and they're able to say, okay, this is the person we think won the election, and such person is sworn in after such judgments. Do you think that, like you said, the players are the ones that are not making democracy to work, not really the system? They say, don't aid the game, or don't aid the players, aid the game. Don't aid the game, aid the players. It could be on either side of anyone who is justifying it. Do you think that really the judiciary arm of government, or to go straight forward, quoting Professor Ango Abdullahi, that the judges in Nigeria are posing threats to our democracy?
they have been made to play a major role, a fundamental role, which is not supposed to be. You see, democracy should reside with the people. People should go to election on election day like a carnival. You go there, vote, and come back home. If you want to stay there and listen, hear the results, fine. But if you don't, and leave. But today, all our cases end up in court, which is not supposed to be so. But I don't blame the judiciary. The aspect of blame for the judiciary is that some of them have not lived up to expectation. Some of them have not lived above board, which they are supposed to. They are supposed to be an independent and unbiased umpire. That's their role. Unfortunately, all our cases, all our electoral cases, now end up in court. At the end of the day, it now seems that it is even there that sometimes you don't even have to. You don't have to even do well in election. All you need is to bribe your way through the judiciary and have have the mandate, which is very dangerous. So we have to do something about it. But you see, unlike many Nigerians, look, there are 4 major. Can I go on?
Yes, please go on.
Hello?
You made a statement that you like to said that you might not be able to even do well in elections, and all you might need to do is just to bribe your way through the court, maybe the appeal court, the Supreme Court, whichever court that is going to hear the case after an election. I said that statement indicts judges. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, no, what I'm trying to say is this, that some people are now of the view that since our election end up in the courts, so all you need to do as a politician, I'm not a politician, I'm just an analyst, and I live in town, I know what goes on. I've been heavily involved in election, particularly since 1999. So what I'm saying is that some politicians are saying that why do you have to even bother yourself? We're working hard to win election when you know that you can have your. I'm not saying that the judiciary, we should blame the judiciary, but it is also an open secret in Nigeria that some lawyers or judges have been okay. Look at what happened recently in Kano. That the CTC of a judgment at the appeal court, I mean, it's different from what was pronounced, is different from what was in the CTC. I mean, how do you explain that? So I'm not indicting any law, but I'm saying the practical things of people. But you see, again, we have to dissect the problem. Look, a lot of people are blaming INEC. Yes, INEC has own play, but we are not talking about politicians who are desperados, who want to win election at all costs. We are not talking about the security officials who are sometimes compromised. We are not even talking about the voters, some voters who are ready to be made sacrificial lamb. They want to die so that they want to help their people to win elections. And some people end up dying. Is the 25th February election different from the 11 November election, the off-cycle election? You see, I'm a pragmatist, and I look at things the way they are, not theory, not anything. This is what happens in Nigeria, and everybody is talking about it. So if you want a solution, the solution lies in all of us. All of us have a role to play, and the role to play is that why should somebody even make himself available to want to hijack ballot paper, hijack ballot box on election day, and in the process he end up killing himself? Why should politicians be there? Politics is supposed to be service. It's not supposed to war. In Nigeria, on the day of election, the whole economy comes to ground zero. You don't do any other thing apart from election. Why should it be so? And at the end of the day, we are not even going to have a credible, a free and fair election. So we need to sit down, and I don't believe it's the people, it's the actors. Why must you force yourself to serve people? Is it compulsory? It shouldn't be. Politics is supposed to be selfless service to the people. The service you want to render, tell people, I want to do this. If they find you one, and in fact, in any case, there's no law that in the liberal democracy that election is won by the best candidate. What election says is that the popular candidate must win. Even if you are not well educated, you are not rich, and the people feel that you are the right person to do the job, you should be allowed to do it. But that's not the system that's operating now. And I don't want to blame it on the system, on liberal democracy. Well, people are entitled to your
Okay, I would like to go to Mr. Adeniton right now. Thank you very much, Mr. Agbola. Mr. Adeniton, I was about asking you, as a lawyer, Professor Ango Abdullahi recently indicted judges saying that they are now threats to our democracy because of the way they uphold rule of law. And we know that, like Mr. Agbola rightly said, most of our cases after elections end up in the courtrooms. Do you think that judges might really be threats to our democracy, as asserted by an elder statesman, Ango Abdullahi? Can you hear me, Mr. Adenito? Yes, please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello? I'm sorry, I don't know. There is a conspiracy. This network actually conspired me to take me out of this program. It's quite bad. Hello? Can you hear me now?
Absolutely, I can hear you.
It's frustrating. You were asking a question on whether judges, did what?
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said Professor Ango Abdullahi recently stated that judges pose threats to our democracy because of the way he thinks they in upholding rule of law in Nigeria, the way they are doing it, he thinks it could be putting democracy in Nigeria in danger. Do you share the same opinion with Professor Ango Abdullahi? Oh my, so unfortunate.
I do not share the same opinion with him. Let us first of all talk as if we are talking about angels. Judges are human beings like us. Hello?
Yeah, please go
Can you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Go ahead. Yes.
Yes, I said I do not agree with Professor Ango Abdullahi, the respected professor of law. I do not agree with him.
Okay, why so?
Our judges are not angels, just like our politicians are not perfect. And in the same way, Mr. Sef are also not perfect. The Nigerian problem is not because of the judiciary. The judiciary is not manned by angels. They are not imported from heaven. They are people who are product of a family. They are product of a political psychology, a political environment, a social cultural environment. They are people of emotion. They are people that have bias as human beings, and they are talking about law. So when they interpret the law, in fact, as a matter of fact, what we are taught in jurisprudence is that the law is what the judges say the law is. The judges are not the maker of the law. They only interpret the intention of the lawmaker, and they interpret the law based on the available facts which parties are provided to them. So if a judge does not see something like Judge G, there is not likely that they're going to see it from the same perspective. They may interpret the same law, the interpretation may not be the same way. And that does not mean the judges are compromised, the judges are bad, they want to kill democracy. No. Don't the politician who carry votes, who steal the vote, or the people collecting money from politicians, and they now dump the problem at the doorstep of the judges. Who is to blame? We are talking about the judiciary. The judges does not go to the poll. It's not available when you do election. Even if I thought he's going to vote, he only has one vote and he will go back to his house. But after the two parties or all the parties have stolen votes, they will now take it to the judiciary and say, okay, oh, I'm the one that told most. This one's still little. Help us look at it and give the mandate to me. So let us don't put all the blame on the judiciary. The judiciary has not done anything. As a matter of fact, one thing that we should commend the political actor of Nigeria for is that there seems to be an unconscious agreement that democracy in Nigeria must survive. Otherwise, some of the ruling of the courts would have been disobeyed by politicians. Look at what happened in Zamfara State, where PDP did not win elections 4 years ago. And the judiciary discarded everybody all members of the APC that won from House of Assembly to the governor and returned the PDP that didn't even win the election. But heaven did not fall. Look at the Bayelsa State, where they did not win the last election, but the judiciary just said because of the fault of the deputy governorship candidate of the APC and the independent governor, heaven did not also fall. But let us not be too emotional. That's exactly where I'm going. We expect a system to become perfect in one day. It is not correct. All the democracy we talk about, I agree with Mr. Fola, the best system is democracy. Even socialism, we have socialist democracy. There is a difference between democracy and socialism. Socialism can accommodate democracy. Those are another issue for another day. Because in Africa, we have seen such of African leaders who have, who actually propounded the concept of democratic socialism, the like of King Nyerere and so on. Now, like I'm saying, every system stabilizes with time. Even democracy, either in Athens, democracy in Europe, in America, was not a day job. It was a process of crisis and conflict. How did you arrive at the Athenian democracy that was the foundation of democracy? The people of Athens, they disagree with the aristocrats, and that led to a crisis, and they brought in Solon. Solon was brought in as a mediator who mediated the crisis between the aristocrats and the people. And that was the beginning. What happened to the 18th century revolution in France, which was the foundation of the liberal.
Wow. I think that the network again, like Mr. Adenito said, there's a conspiracy against him because of the way the network is actually fluctuating from his end. Our time is fast spent. While we try to reconnect Mr. Adenito on the show, it is still Jump Out Nigeria, and we are talking about the statement made by the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, who said that democracy was forced on Nigeria. And I think Mr. Adenito is trying really hard to join us back. You're welcome, Mr. Adenito. Can we still have you, please?
What is the disconnect?
You're back. You're back, Mr. Adenito. Oh my. You're back, Mr. Adenito. You're back. Hello? Can you hear me, Mr. Adenito?
Yes, I'm back. It's just that they don't want to. I don't know what. I have to be using different networks to stay connected. I hope you can hear me too.
So, yes, absolutely, we can hear you.
What I was actually saying is that even every society where you have had democracy, there have been one crisis or the other that has led to the evolution of the system. Not just the system came from heaven, like the Bible was sent to us by Oyibo and we accepted. No. So if Nigerian democracy too will stabilize, it's going to be a lot of crisis process through contradictions, paradox, and so on. It is the contradiction that bring development or theory of opposite, simple theory of opposite. Man and woman come together and produce a child. Negative and positive bring electricity. That's the way society is wired. Contradiction bring development. Democracy in every part of the world is a product of contradiction, a product emanating from a process of conflict, of power contest between classes, the classes of the privileged and the classes of the other people who protest. As we speak today, Nigerian democracy can only become stable when the ordinary Nigerian person is tired with the aristocrat who control Nigerian democracy and governance. But as long as the people are also are complacent, are docile, are also enabling the ruling class, we'll continue to have this kind of thing, because the people you are talking about, they will collect 5,000, including people you respect that pretend to be elites. They will collect money from the same politician and come and speak grammar the next day. Hypocrisy everywhere. So for me, it is lazy for us to blame the judiciary and say, oh, it's the judiciary. No. Let us start, like Yoruba will say, let's look at this EU from the foundation. The foundation is where we do the balloting. Before we get to the judiciary, it has gone through a lot of process. We spend billions of naira days to prepare election. INEC official compromise, police compromise, politician compromise, the ordinary people compromise. After a lot of compromises, you now expect the super judge who is from heaven to now come and say, oh, I was at the election, this man stole vote. Let me tell this to you clearly with respect. If you look at all the contending parties in court, every one of them must have been involved in one malfeasance or the other. If you check it very well, you see that every one of them would have been involved. What they come to argue in court is that I'm not, I stole little. This man stole more than I do. That's what they come to do in court. So the judges also know that, look, both of you have been used. And the man look at the position of law and look at other issues that you will not see. Look at the stability of the polity. He consider other factors. I am not saying that all judges are saints or angels. They are human beings like us. They have biases. They have brothers, they have friends, they have people that they just naturally like, and they feel like, oh, I'm just disposed to this man. So this kind of thing can actually affect their decision one time or the other. But that does not mean that everything that has been happening in the judiciary since 1999 has been about compromise, about bias, about the judges who don't like Nigeria. No, that's not correct. That's not correct. The judges, in fact, the matter of fact, all the arms of government are equity, they are part of the ruling class. The police, the army, they are also agents of the ruling class. Until the people speak and say, no, we have voted. This is my we vote for, I vote must come. For example, let me say this to you. Do you know that if we vote in our street, for example, if we vote for a councillor, do you know we know who is popular among the councillor in our area? After the election, how many of us protest that it is not Chade that won? It should be Taye that should have won. I'm not Chade. We don't protest too. We go back to our home. Why do we go back? Why do we accept everything? Because we are also compromised ourselves.
Maybe protests don't work. Maybe protests don't work in Nigeria.
At one point or the other. That's what you said.
Maybe protests don't work in Nigeria.
It works everywhere. That's why I'm telling you. Everyone study history of democracy. It is the people that resist and say they don't want this system. That's what brought about democracy. Protests work in Nigeria, and we have seen clear examples. Protests work against military rule. Nigeria were on the street every day. The media was there. The frontline politicians, some of them were involved in the struggle against military rule. We chased the military, and the military ran away. Until the Nigerian people begin to say, though, we have chased out the military. Now let us chase out the oligarchy, the aristocrat, and the greed among ourselves. But
thank you very much, Mr.
The protest does not work in Nigeria. It's not correct. The only protest that does not work in Nigeria is the sponsor or a sponsored protest. You know, most of the protests in Nigeria are sponsored. They are sponsored. When you are talking about genuine protest, it's spontaneous reaction of people to a particular issue. That is genuine protest.
Okay, our time is really fast spent. I would like us to begin to round up now. It's as if we are not going to agree on the same point on this issue. But as we begin to round up, Mr. Agbola, I will be sending this question directly at you first. While Mr. Adenito might have one way or the other answered my question, I would like to ask at this point, what is the way forward? Obasanjo just suggested that we should be thinking towards Afro-democracy and not just the liberal Western democracy. In 1 minute, Mr. Agbola, do you think that Afro-democracy is the real way out? Like, what is the way forward?
Well, first, to start with, the INEC, let us start with the people. The people should be conscientized to the level that they should not make themselves sacrificial lamb. That is one. Two, on the part of the security officials, they must ensure adequate security for voters. Politicians must be less desperate. We need to look at the perquisites they earn when they get into the office. How can people be buying 150 million car now at a time when even the minimum wage of 30,000 is not being paid by some state governments? So we need to sit down, recalibrate, and do other things. On the part of the government, you see, what we have now is that there's a lot of money going into it, and people can do anything and everything to ensure they get the money to move into government. If they get into government, they know they can easily recoup it. The reward system must be brought down. Then, do we even need 109 senators to serve Nigeria? Senators? Do we need 360 members of the House of Representatives? Before the cost on governance is so high, we need to do something about it. Look, all these Afro-democracy, well, everybody is entitled to his own opinion, but I don't think that's where the solution lies. They must, within themselves, be ready to make sacrifice for Nigerians. That's the politicians. That's some of the ways I think we can overcome the present challenges we are going through.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. As we round up tonight, the way forward, you already said people should react and all. Would there be any other solutions you want to prefer to what we're talking about this night and what we have not been able to even mention that has brought Nigeria to where it is tonight?
Okay, you mean I should provide a solution to the EU?
Yes, the way forward.
Yes. Okay, let me quickly refer Obasanjo talking about full democracy. If you also know, liberal democracy itself is a product of a many factor, like I said, contradictions, crisis, and conflict. There were many philosophers, including starting from people like Socrates to Aristotle to Plato, and up to people like J.J. Rousseau, Thomas Hobbes, and also they were writing. Their writing influenced the decision of the people. So if Obasanjo started talking about African democracy, thinking of this kind of people, scholar, intellectuals, and philosopher, can begin to influence the people. My dear sister, nobody. System does not happen like a magic. It's an evolutionary process. The system of Nigeria will get to a state where we know what works for us as a people. For me, if we say, oh, government should not do the government, those are just mere theory and rhetoric. 2 million people is in office, these are rhetoric. Anybody whose family is elected as a senator will not want the senator to be removed. Either we are conscious or not, we are going to continue to go through this paradox until we have a system that will suit our purpose and meet our needs.
We seem to be having a lot of network issues. I think Mr. Denison, are you still there? Can you hear me? Wow. Okay, I think and at those points, very big my guests this night. It's been an awesome privilege to have you both on the show. I wanted us to really hear Mr. Adenito. Mr. Adenito, are you still there? Can you hear me? Okay, now network really played a fast game on us tonight, and it did not really allow us to hear ourselves very clearly. It's been a great privilege to have you both on Jump Out Nigeria today. Let me remind you that we spoke about the assertion by the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, saying that democracy was forced on us. And we had two gentlemen in the house, two public affairs analysts, Mr. Murtala Agbola and also Mr. Adenito Akinola, who is also a journalist, a lawyer, and a public affairs analyst. I really, really wish we had more time to talk about this topic this evening. It's been an intense discussion, and I most sincerely say thank you for being with us, Mr. Adenito. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Wow. Okay, Mr. Agbola, thank you also for.
Thank you for having me.
We have to just go now. Please join me again on Sunday next week, and we will be having another guest in the house talking about Nigeria again, but on a very different topic. My name remains Taye Charles Okon. Please let the conversation continue. Let us know what you think. Let's know what you feel. Let's know your own opinion about our democracy and possible way out to make Nigeria a better place for all of us to stay. Until when you see me again next week, same time, 8 o'clock in the evening till 9 p.m., I remain Taye Charles Okon. Please do enjoy the rest of the week, and bye for now.